Hello, ni hao, konnichiwa, welcome to the Michael Gordon channel. So one thing that I want to talk about today is a word of caution about investing in Chinese stocks. About a year ago, there was this new IPO called Luckin Coffee, and it's based in China, and apparently they have a lot of coffee stores around the country over there. They have I think the symbol of the company is like a reindeer or a moose. And it was basically a cheap knockoff of Starbucks. It was meant to be relatively inexpensive, and the people in China seem to like it. Well, recently the stock was suspended by the Nasdaq because there was some fraud that was involved in that company, and people who invested in that company, not only are there massive losses, probably about 70 to 80% from the recent price, they can't get their money out because it's recently frozen. And I think this should actually be a word of caution for anyone considering investing in China at all. The truth is, I've been to China. I know that anything that the government or private businesses say, it should be suspect because there is no rule of law that exists there. There is nothing to really protect you, especially as a foreigner. There really isn't. So the problem over there is that they're not even allowing American auditors over there to find out if most of these Chinese companies have accurate numbers. And I think that's a huge problem, because if you are considering investing in these companies, how do you know that these numbers are legitimate? Because as soon as one day is proven that these numbers are phony, your money will be locked up and you will not be able to trade. And not only that, when you will be able to trade, you will not have a lot of money remaining after having made this investment. So I'd say right now, especially, China is a very high risk place to place your bets, to own some equities, because the truth is you really don't know what's going on over there. And this shows you that investing in a place like the advanced economies of the world, or even the poorer countries, at least there's a little bit more of a sense of honesty in terms of the numbers. Whereas with China, it does seem as though there's a very, very high risk that you're always dealing with companies that are playing with the numbers, and you're not exactly getting accurate data about what's going on. In fact, I think that there are quite a number of short sellers, or there used to be, that would actually go to China, or they were based there, and they would kind of spy on the companies that were doing business in China, and they could determine that some of their financial data really didn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, of course, a lot of these people would oftentimes be harassed by the local police or even arrested. And I think that shows you the fact that the police would arrest these people just for kind of just hanging out in the car, maybe using binoculars, just hanging out trying to get some intelligence on a private company, shows you that China in general is not a very open place. That when you try to determine the facts, even about private businesses, you could really get in trouble. And as an investor, if you're based here in the US or in Europe or even other parts of Asia, you have to ask yourself, is that really the kind of place where you would want to risk your money? Because I think that as an investor, you should be the one to say you want to hold them to higher standards. You want them to open the books. You want outside auditors. In other words, not just people from the local population. You want American auditors to be allowed to open the books, let the sun shine in, and find out if the data makes sense. Because the truth is, the last thing you want to do is to wake up one morning and a lot of your money just is stuck. You can't trade it. It's worth a lot less, and you got defrauded, basically. Because it makes sense why a lot of these companies want to be listed on the U.S. exchanges, especially if they're engaged in fraud, because they get to put phony numbers out there. Then when the time is right, they'll just decide to sell their shares on the open exchanges, where they are aware that it's a fraud and it's not worth that much. So they get off first and they get their money out, and then you're stuck. By the time the fraud is alleged, they're out, they're not worried about it anymore, and then you're the one holding the bag on some worthless stock. So I think it actually makes sense to at least invest in a culture or place where you actually feel that there's a higher level of trust, there's the rule of law, and where you actually are, it actually makes sense what you're investing in. Because in a way, I actually, the facts on the ground in China didn't make sense for a company like Luckin too, because I did hear some third-party reports that even Chinese were shocked that the stock of Luckin Coffee was worth so much, because they would do substantial discounts all the time just to get people to have some interest in it. And even people in China didn't like Luckin Coffee too much compared to Starbucks. Starbucks was always full. The Luckin Coffee was not. And I think that should have been the first sign that, hey, maybe this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe people don't think this is such a great company after all. So that's another reason why I would not choose to invest in mainland Chinese companies. In the past, I actually have held Hong Kong shares, but because of the Hong Kong protests, and also because it looks like they have a lot less autonomy than they used to, I actually do not intend to buy Hong Kong shares anytime soon. I mean, if you want to invest in a foreign location, I think Taiwan probably is a great new location in many ways. It's like people are rediscovering it. People realize that they have a rule of law. It's a very vibrant democracy, and also a lot of things that were produced on the mainland, they might now be produced in Taiwan. And I also just get the sense that the relationship between the US and Taiwan improving quite substantially will be pretty good for their markets as well. So that's something to consider. I think you should always be skeptical of any investment, especially people on the internet are always promoting something that doesn't make sense, like some new cryptocurrency. And I think in the last 10 years it was, oh, you gotta invest in Chinese companies right now before it's too late. But then you realize, I didn't realize that the numbers don't add up, and there was a lot of gimmicks and fraud involved. So never fall for anything that sounds a little bit too good to be true, that just doesn't really add up. You have to use a lot of skepticism when you're thinking about investments, because someone will always come up with a good reason for you to hand them their money. So that's enough for now, and be sure to like this video, subscribe, because only people who like making money subscribe and like these videos. So I'll talk to you soon in another video. Bye.